patience, as the lady just said. Forgive me if I'm a bit nervous. It's the first time I've ever spoken to a group this size. I've spoken to the pulmonary rehab groups, but never this amount of people. So I'll just give you a bit of a background to start of where my journey started. Obviously, I'm an ex-smoker. Smoked from teenage years. Then my career as a lorry driver, I was smoking throughout that for 25 plus years. Hence why I ended up with being diagnosed with emphysema. This was back in 2011 when I was 46, and this was in Milton Keynes Hospital. They dealt with the first diagnosis. I managed to get a couple of years of reasonable health, but I found that I was getting more and more infections, chest infections, which were harder to kick. And it wasn't until about 2015, when I met my partner Julie, that it really started to take hold on me. I was under the care of Luton and Dunstable Hospital for a while. They sowed a few seeds of having bronchial coils or valves fitted in my lungs, which never came to fruition. Apparently my lungs were too weak to take that. I carried on with a pulmonary rehab group from Luton and Dunstable, which was not ideal in the way that Chris's team works. It was basically just in a hall with ankle weights, arm weights, walking in between cones and various things like that. It was okay. It worked at the time. I wasn't as breathless then, but obviously as the disease progressed, it was a lot more harder to exercise. So yeah, back in 2016, I went through the pulmonary rehab group at Luton Dunstable, and then I moved to Oxford, and all my care then transferred over to Oxford. And then from the respiratory side of things, from the Churchill Hospital, under Maxine Harding, a lovely lady, she then decided that it was time to see what they could do within the lungs. So she put me forward in an MDT meeting for a surgery under the care of Dr. Francesco Ticciara, a good friend of mine still. And I went under his care and had a lung reduction surgery at the end of 2017. Again, this gave me a great lengthy period of good health. His chest infections didn't seem to be as bad. I even played a cricket match in 2018, which I'd only dreamt about doing. So, yeah, so that was in 2017. 2018 was quite a reasonably good year. And then coming through to 2019, I had the mother of all infections in April, leading to having sepsis, which absolutely floored me. And at the time, previously, before my surgery, I went through Chris's pulmonary rehab, which was completely different to the ones I'd had before. We were in a gym environment, which suited me better. I was a gym goer anyway before, and so I found it quite easy to transition between the machines and different weights and the way the whole system worked. But not only the physical side of things, we had tutorials afterwards where we'd sit and have a cup of tea and a biscuit, and someone would come in and talk to us about maintenance of your medications, breathing exercises, dietary problems, all things like that. Which again is really, really helpful. It helps you get a real kind of mental state of mind, how to control your disease. Still not easy, but yeah, it opened my eyes to just how important it was to stay as strong and fit as possible. After all, that's what gets you through these bouts of lung problem, the whole exacerbations, that's the word I'm looking for. So yeah, so 2017 I had the lung reduction surgery. 2018 had a really good run of health, played cricket. 2019 I ended up with this mother of all infections with sepsis, which absolutely floored me. And then Chris kept coming round, bless him. The aftercare from rehab is just as good as the rehab itself. Chris would come round 2 or 3 times a week, checking it, and he's got an obsession with mucus. I don't know what it is. He just loves looking at the colour of your mucus. And yeah, some of it was not very nice. But so we got through that sepsis, and Maxine Harding from the Churchill had then put me forward for lung transplant, which again was completely out of my head. I'd never even considered having a lung transplant. So we carried on various trips back and forward to Harefield Hospital. And then unfortunately, at the end of 2019, I was told I got prostate cancer. And the team at Harefield decided that I'd need to be at least 5 years cancer-free before they would proceed. As you can imagine, that was a bit of a gut for me. I was 2 days away from sitting the 3-day assessment, and then this just came up, and that was it, bang. It's like my whole life had just gone taken from under me. So it is quite emotional when you think back. Yeah, so anyway, we got through that. I ended up having 37 sessions of radiotherapy over the course of 7 weeks, non-stop. Have we got some pictures of it? This is me.
Catching up now.
Pulmonary rehab group. My PT, bless him. That lady there is a good friend who I went through my pulmonary rehab course with, and today we still both go back to the gym. Every Tuesday and a Thursday we're there, and then drinking coffee afterwards. Yeah, so I got through the prostate cancer, and after say 7.5 weeks of radiotherapy, they then deemed that I was in remission. And then I still wanted to continue with this lung transplant, but I didn't know quite which way to go. So again, I spoke to Maxine Harding, and she said, well, she would see what avenues were available to me. But then I spoke to Francesco Di Chiara, the surgeon who did my lung reduction surgery, and he said, well, you can have a second opinion. You don't have to go by one opinion. Hence why we went to Royal Papworth. And Royal Papworth took me on their books in 2022 and everything seemed to progress along. As my disease was getting worse and worse, I was getting more and more infections. But the main thing was what I'd learned through pulmonary rehab and the physical side of things, keeping fit, actually kept me in good stead. If it hadn't been for pulmonary rehab, I wouldn't have even been offered transplant. There's a strict criteria that you have to fit to be able to be eligible for it. And fortunately, because I'd done the pulmonary rehab, I was fit enough to get it. Then my father passed away literally about 2 or 3 days before I was going to my first appointment at Papworth. He'd been a big inspiration and pusher for me to go forward with transplant, and so he never knew that I actually went through the process. And I think it was 2023. I sat the 3-day assessment, and they offered me transplant. It was in March 2023. I was offered transplant with the condition that I had certain things I needed to take care of. One of which was dentistry. I had a lot of dentistry work to be taken care of, and again, because of the amount of steroids I've been on throughout my life, it led to other problems like osteoporosis, brittle bones. And again, because of this osteoporosis, means I couldn't have teeth pulled. It used to, is it osteoporosis or something? I can't remember the name of the disease, but basically if they pull teeth out, your jawbone can actually die with the infection. So the dentistry team at John Ratcliffe, the restorative dentistry team, led by Mr. Wilson, they took it upon themselves to sort my teeth out so that I could get on the transplant list. And they managed to get me on the transplant list in June 2023. So I'd just like to say a massive shout out to the dentistry team there, because they actually performed wonders. Well, you probably wouldn't see it, but I can actually smile again now. Before I was struggling to even smile. So yeah, big shout out to Mr. Wilson, Miss Amanda Holmes, and the lovely dentistry assistant Karen. They've done such a great job on me. So 2023, June, I went on the list, and I was on the list then for 6 months, 7 months, and in that time I had 4 false alarms. So the phone would ring at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, saying we have a potential set of lungs for you. Could you make your way to the hospital? Where they sent a vehicle out to pick me up, and 4 times that happened. Okay, it's difficult to portray the feeling of when you're given that chance, and then you get there, you're prepped for surgery, and then all of a sudden someone comes to say the lungs just aren't fit for purpose. So they send you away basically. The first time that happened was a bit of a downer for both of us. But as the time went by, the more that you had, you seem to be like a bit blasé about it. You think, oh, it's not going to happen anyway. It's just a void out in a taxi for me. Albeit very early in the morning. And then my last false alarm was actually on Christmas Day, 2023. And that was a difficult one to take, especially since I'm the chef and I was cooking roast dinner. And had to be down to my good lady herself to cook. But yeah, that was a difficult one. And I actually didn't even reach the hospital. They actually phoned me while I was in the taxi on the M11 and said, just turn around, lungs aren't fit for purpose. So that was a big hit to take. But then not long after that, January the 11th, got the phone call. Again, taxi came, picked me up, took me in, prepped for surgery, and then the surgeon actually came down. They all said to me, you'll know if the surgery's going ahead, because there'll be 2 people come and see you. One will be the transplant coordinator, and the other will be a surgeon. And this time, there was a coordinator, and a lady standing there, and I'm thinking she must be the surgeon there. And sure enough, Miss Hasper Smale, her name is, one of the lead transplant surgeons at Royal Papworth. She stood there and said, everything's going ahead. And I thought, wow, you kind of just go into like a haze then. They give you about 10-15 minutes to phone around your family and let them know what's going on. Oh, that's me with my oxygen. Yeah. So they don't really give you that long to contact family and let them know what's going on. Obviously there's a certain amount of time when, once the lungs have been harvested, or any of the organs have been harvested, there's a certain amount of time that they need to get them inside you basically before they die. So I was taken down for surgery at about 10:30. 7.5 hours later, I'd got a new set of lungs. There's some of the, as you can see that bottom left there, they give me the clamshell incision. They open you right up and look a cane, hence the name. Again, I mean, it looks nasty, but to be quite honest with you, I mean, the pain, they're so good at managing pain nowadays. The biggest problem I felt was actually standing up. because I was so weak anyway from having the disease previous. I'd wasted away to nothing. Again, I'm very fortunate that Caroline Patterson, one of the lead consultants at Backworth, she actually kind of like took a leap of faith with me because I was so weak. She didn't think she wasn't sure whether I'd get through the operation or not. Also, she didn't realise if I'd had the right mentality to get through the operation afterwards, because it's not an easy thing post-op when you're laying there and you suddenly think, oh, hang on a minute, I've got new lungs. It's a very odd concept to take on board straight away. But with their help, Royal Backworth was actually an amazing place. Great people, right away from maintenance to catering to the doctors, nurses, consultants. They all do a massive, massive job, and they do it really, really well. So I had I think it was a week, wasn't it, in ICU? A week in ICU. I think they started to wake me up on day 2. And yeah, I think it was about 5 days, then they moved me up onto the transplant ward, where one of these guys like him come and stood by my bed and said, right, we're going to get you up. And I'm, what? After 5 days, you're going to stand me up? So sure enough, they did. The next day they came round, stood me up. There's certain ways you have to stand because you can't put your hands down, so you literally have to kind of flip yourself and then push with your legs. And they was always telling me to build my legs up with my legs. I'm not exactly a rugby player. That was the most difficult part of standing up. Once you get up, and you can start walking around, I had the frame there, and you can see that was, lost a fair bit of condition there. Some of the photos are a bit gruesome, but it wasn't as bad. I actually think it was harder for this lady. She had to manage the house, manage the dogs, go to work, run the house, everything. All I had to do was lay down and heal. And with the help of Backworth, all the staff there, they do an amazing job. It's so easy to heal up. And that's it. And then I came home. I'd set myself 2 goals post-op. One of which was to go see where my dad's ashes were scattered, which was up on the top of, I don't know if you guys know, the Dunstable Downs, Ivanhoe Beacon. My father's ashes were scattered up on the top there. Now I was too weak to walk up there. So that was my first goal. Now I managed to do that in May of this year. So what, 3 or 4 months? Oh, there we go, yeah. So we walked up and I stood down, had a beer with my dad, had a little chat with him, and very emotional day that was. As you can see, do I look so chubby now, do you think? Do you look that chubby? I think I'm not with that. These meds that you're on, they really do blow you out a bit.
It helps you doing that kind of thing afterwards. This is the sort of thing we got you doing afterwards.
Yeah, this was when I came out of hospital. Chris liaised with the physios at Backworth to get me back through the pulmonary rehab program again, just to build my strength up. And that was me. Was it Robin?
Yeah,
Robin set me up with a farmer's walk and on the treadmill again. And it didn't really take that long.
Do you know how heavy those kettlebells are?
Sorry?
Do you know how heavy those kettlebells are?
Those are 8 kilos.
Are they?
8 kilos.
Only 8?
Now this is what I have with this guy. Whatever I do is not enough. So I could be walking on a treadmill or cycling, and he'll come over and first thing he'll do is push my shoulders down, because you're always like that when you've got a disease, you push my shoulders down. And he'd say, 5 kilos? No, sorry, 3 kilometres? Not very far, is it? And that would spur me on then, and I'll make sure the next time I do 5. So he's very cagey in the way he used to treat me. Now for me, it worked great. Other people would look at him and probably call him names, but me personally, I like that. I need that bit of push. So fair play to Chris. He's pushed me all the way. And then my second goal, Caroline Patterson, lead consultant.
Do ignore his catch on there.
Sorry? Yeah, the tax was a bit of a mistake, by the way.
I've seen it might not be in here, but I've seen a few around today.
I was going for a George Michael look, but failed miserably. Yeah, my second goal was to play in my father's memorial cricket match. Having been brought up around the cricket scene since I was a kid, I really wanted to play cricket again. And again in August, I managed to do that. Again, going through pulmonary rehab, building my strength up, and the whole process again. I mean, I didn't actually complete the whole course because I was back and forth to Royal Backworth for clinic appointments, sort of once a week or once every fortnight. Gradually they're getting less and less now, so I think I'm on one every 6 weeks now. But considering I missed a few appointments, I did reasonably well in my place. I wouldn't say criticised, but yeah. And that got me so that I could play cricket again. So that again was a very, very emotional day. I mean, that was quite a long time ago. That
was after your.
That was after the long time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's after that. So people can't see it at the top. It says transformational fit peeps. Dave will hate it because he's been told it before about how much of an inspiration he is, but it's things like that they then use to put up a story to encourage people that aren't young and fit to go to a gym. And whilst that picture's been on there before and it's a bit old, that is what Dave is. He's an inspiration to people like him, and I'm hoping inspiration to people like you. I've got some questions for him to try and explain a few things. Inspiration to people like you that we, and you are included in this, can make a difference to people's lives. This isn't a one person thing. Well, I say that. It's not a one professional thing, it's a one person thing. It's a very much a Dave journey, and he is the star of it. But the number of people that have influenced it, I think I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. Quite a few. And there'd be certain people in there that were more influential. And I'm talking, obviously, Maxine, surgeons, Kieran, Julie. They're the people. I'd like to say our team as well, but I'm not going to say that because that sounds arrogant. I let Dave say that.
But that's the thing. See, I don't look upon myself as an inspiration. I think the journey itself is inspirational. I don't think myself as being an inspiration. But like you said, the whole journey from start to finish, there's been so many people involved with it. From my GP, which is absolutely amazing. Maxine Harding, amazing lady. Pulmonary rehab with Chris, not so much Chris, but pulmonary rehab. It's really good. It does work. It really does.
I'm going to change that and say you absolutely are amazing, because what I've got on the screen for you guys, we're going to do some spirometry later, but this is Dave's spirometry. So the one on the left is his pre-op spirometry. Now that won't mean anything to you, but what it shows to me is he breathes out for less than a quarter of a second at full whack, and then he cannot get the air or air out, and the rest of that time, up to about nearly 2.5 seconds, is there struggling to come out. On the other side, post-transplant is a much more normal graph. You've got very, very severe obstruction on one side and normal graph, and you can see the flow rate doesn't even reach 3 litres per second on one side, and yet we're getting up to 7 on the other. The volume will be massively different, and it explains this. You've got pre-op lung transplant, X-ray on the right and post on the left. You don't need to be an expert to know that the one on the right, they are huge, and that's why he's getting no airflow. And the reason why I say Dave, I think Dave's an inspiration, he lived with that for years, doing what people like me asked him to do and didn't complain, just trying to get better. And
I did complain.
well, no, yeah, but not to me. So I don't care. And as I say, this isn't a physio thing, this is a everyone thing, but to see what Dave's been through, you just have to go back and see those photos there to see what you've been through. So, Dave, my question for you is, can you explain to these guys? So these guys are largely trained to be physios, am I right? There's a few non-physios in here, isn't there? But that's okay, because you're going to be exercise professionals as well, and you're still going to have to treat people like Dave. So I spent 3 weeks at Harefield on a placement as part of my masters after I did my undergrad worked for several years, went and did the masters and went to Harefield. I spent the first 10 years of my career working on intensive care. I thought I pushed people hard. I went to Harefield, pushed the patient, day one, post-lung transplant, as hard as I thought I could. The response I got was, you need to do more. So, I want Dave, can you remember, I know you said, the standing was hard, but actually, the first time a physio saw you in Papworth, can you remember what they did with you?
No.
Okay, that's fine. That's a shame.
I can only remember the. What you mean post transplant?
Yeah, post transplant.
Post transplant. Yeah. So initially, the priority was to actually get you to stand up in the correct way. Like I said, because you couldn't use your hands or your arms to push because you split your wound open. So learning to do that, and actually even just simple things like getting the bed at the correct height so you could literally kind of roll yourself up. They taught you all of that. Then the next day, the first day they would get you up and down, so make sure you could stand up, maybe do that half a dozen times. Second day, they'd come round at the same time, get you standing up. I said, right, now we'll go for a walk. What?
And at this point, Dave, so the picture in the bottom left, you can see Dave, he's sat in a chair, he's got his incision, and just at the bottom by his tattoo, he's got 2 drains going in. You would have had another one a little bit lower down.
2 more.
2 more drains going in. So you were walking with those drains in, yes?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, they actually, I had the walk up, which we saw earlier.
Yeah.
And they would literally, the guy, James, his name was, he would carry the drains, and I would just walk. And I remember the first time I walked, I think I did about 25 metres or something like that. And he said, well, that's enough. I said, no, we'll keep going. So we kept going and actually walked all the whole way around the wall, which is like a big circle. And it even amazed him. I said, but that's the thing. With pulmonary rehab, the way it worked for me, because this guy pushed me so hard, I was prepared to do that for myself. And I learned that I'm never going to get better by sitting down. You've got to get moving, and that's what I did. So they were amazed to see me on day 2 coming round, and then I'm walking the whole ward. They said it's normally happens, but again, you can't compare me with someone else. Everyone's different. Everyone reacts differently to trauma or operations or anything. It's just that my mindset was set from day 1. From the minute I decided I wanted transplant, to go for transplant, that was it. My mind was made up, and it doesn't matter what was going to be in the way, I'd jump over it. Any hurdles that come up, I would just jump over them. And that got me where I am today. But yeah, there's so many people that I'd like to thank. Starting off with, say, all the respiratory team at Churchill, all the surgical team at the John Ratcliffe, the dentistry team at the John Ratcliffe, Royal Papworth, absolutely phenomenal job on me, and of course pulmonary rehab led by Chris. And if it hadn't been for pulmonary rehab, I definitely wouldn't have got the surgery. So 100% rehab works, and hopefully you guys will follow your careers and meet people like me. Lastly, I'd like to thank this lady for standing by me. No, it does.
But you also haven't said that as much as the team were for Dave, to get Dave up and running, that team were on the end of a phone from me when I couldn't cope any longer.
Yeah.
And Chris came round quite often, or Carl back in the day would come round, check him out, get him moving, give him things to clear his chest, which then we could put in place and go forward for another 3 days while all the meds were working. So it isn't just for him, it's for everybody under that roof as well. I've got a 15-year-old daughter who's gone through all of this with us as well, and if I'm not right, I can't look after him and I can't look after her, so knowing that these guys are on the end of the phone and can either give me things to help him with, or to tell me, right, you need to go and contact this person and get something, or he needs to go to A&E, which was where we tried to avoid all the time. Without them supporting me, I couldn't have supported him, so it really is a fraud.
It is a big net.
And also pulmonary rehab now, as much as Dave doesn't feel he needs the how to clear the airways and stuff after his operation, just going back into that and seeing the people that he's seen all the way through the journey to have, because he does have down days, but and if he misses going down the gym on a Tuesday and a Thursday that is pulmonary rehab day, I know he hasn't been, because now they're there for him mentally. He's got the physical side, but he still needs the mental
I
support.
find the physical side is a lot easier to cope with than the mental side. I'm getting better, but there's still days. You know, when you think of the donor, because obviously when you're celebrating, say, a year. I mean, I'm now 10 months post-op, so I'm coming around for 12 months. So you'll be celebrating when they do. A lot of the people that I've met through transplant, they call it their 12-month lung anniversary. You know, I don't particularly like that term, but that's what they do. And sorry.
Ignore my team.
So it's definitely a way forward, is what we're saying. Is you've been back in rehab, down to rehab, and the team's supported you on every time we've hit a hurdle, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Cancer, the VATS, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not just you; it's work for your friends that still go as well, doesn't it?
Well, that's the thing, and that's the thing. I mean, it's not only me. I mean, some of my friends, like the lady Linda there, we've been going back. We went through rehab together in early 2017 in Banbury, and we're still going back there now, every Tuesday and Thursday. Again, that speaks volumes for what Chris has done with the pulmonary rehab, to inspire people, to make people come back. Well, not make people, but give them the confidence to come back. And that's what a lot of it is about, is having the confidence to do it. So, yeah. So that's it. So if anyone want to ask me any questions, feel free. Is that okay, Chris?
Yeah, no, great. So it's a really good opportunity. You don't get to meet patients with a story like Dave very often. So use him to ask questions, get some experience from him. We've got about another 10 minutes before we have to leave the room. So please do use him, because he's a valuable asset to, certainly for me, to come and teach you. I think what he's told you in this hour is more powerful than anything I'm going to tell you for the rest of the day.
And that's actually quite a skimmed down version of it. I mean, I'm going to grab it for 2 or 3 hours.
But just know that you, as therapists, as exercise professionals, will make difference to people's lives, like we seem to have done for Dave, which is amazing. And wherever you end up working, whether that's in a specialist unit, whether you're in MSK or neuro, whatever, you will get to meet stuff like this, hopefully, and then use them to inspire the next generation. That's kind of what I wanted from you today. Hopefully you found it enjoyable and useful. So ask him questions, otherwise you're going to have to listen to me for the rest of the day.
And mindset is key.
Yeah,
So we've got a question just down here,
mindset is
Dave.
key.
We've both got a question here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hearing your story. That's really helpful.
That's okay.
And yeah, it's a really vulnerable thing to do, so it is really helpful. So thank you.
you.
How would you explain how you felt after having the transplant in terms of just like breathing? Was that quite a stark difference? Or how do you explain that?
There's one way I describe this to everybody, because loads of people ask me that. What's it like post-transplant when you first wake up and you take your first breath? It's like night and day. That's the only way I can describe it. You've gone from struggling with the oxygen to then breathing completely normally with no help. And it's an odd feeling to walk around the ward with obviously I was on the frame, but with no oxygen helping me. It's just such a massive difference, and it took a while to realise just how much I could do. And again, with pulmonary rehab's help, it helps to push you through that, because you tend to think, oh man, that's all I can do. But this guy, no, you can do more. And it's human nature, isn't it? To just sit back. But yeah, it was like night and day. That's the only way I can describe it. Yeah.
Following on from what she said, and I know again it's really hard to talk about, but before you had your lung transplant, how severe were your symptoms? Like, you say you were breathless.
Yeah.
How much did that limit your life?
I don't know whether
I see my fitness to work.
there was a video here.
I don't think
I don't know if it works or not, but there was a video of me coming back from A&E, and Julie trying to get me back in the house, and it was just so. I couldn't even walk up 2 or 3 steps without being out of breath. That's how bad. I think I was on about 15% lung volume. This is hardly anything. Yeah, so this is me trying to get back in the house one night from A&E.
and it's on oxygen.
Yeah, so he's on oxygen in there as well.
And then we got stuck.
We got stuck, I couldn't get in the house. And that's when the fear factor takes over. I've walked all the way up those stairs, and I'm totally spent. I haven't got anything else. And I've still got 2 more steps to get up into the house, and then get to a seat to sit down. And all the time your mind is just whirling over. You've got to sit, you've got to sit, you've got to sit down. But you've got nowhere. The only way I could do was to lean on Julie.
And the thing I used to find infuriating was that obviously if you've got no oxygen, you can't speak. And he would stand there like that saying to me, I can't breathe. And I'm like, I can see you can't breathe, shut up. And I think people, especially at work, because I worked in A&E then, so I'd had to come home this day, let the ambulance in, follow the ambulance back to A&E, got him put in a room where they could treat him. I carried on working, and then they let me come home early to bring him home. And he still says to me, I can't breathe. And they used to say I was so stern with him and everything. But for me, I wasn't his other half at that point. I'm like, you need to stop talking so that I can get you in the house. And the first time he ever walked up, when we got home, he walked up the stairs and spoke to me at the top of the stairs. I tell you, I didn't pass out because he made me jump, because I'm not used to him talking. And sneezing, he's never sneezed. He couldn't cough.
Yeah, so there's those little things that everyone takes for granted, sneezing, for instance. I mean, I couldn't sneeze before, but now I'm crikey, I'd blow you all away. It's completely
And
different.
basically about Christmas they told him he had 6 months. That was all he had left, because the oxygen was getting more dependent. He'd gone from using it just on exacerbation to using it constantly. We'd be in the car, and obviously we had a manual car, trying to drive, just trying to change gear. I would have to be turning his oxygen up so that he could change gear. If somebody pulled out on us, and it got to a point where he didn't want to drive then, so he was getting more and more isolated. We've got 12 steps up to the front of the house. He couldn't go in and out if it was raining, if it was windy.
Cold mornings.
Cold mornings. Carrying the oxygen cylinder as well. It was just, and some days you couldn't even go, we quite open plan, you couldn't even make a cup of tea.
No.
He couldn't cook because opening the oven door, the heat, he would get too hot, or he's got his oxygen.
So it wasn't a good idea with the oxygen cylinders either.
That's another thing to talk about. I'm afraid we're just running out of time. I've got people queuing up to come in. I know you guys have got to head off because you've got work. Really selfish of them to make you work. Are you okay? So I don't know where we're going, Annabelle. We've got a 15-minute break, but about 10:15 we're going to be in various places. But Dave will stick around. He'll come with me to the room where I'm going to be. for 10 minutes. So if there's any more questions, come and speak to him.
That's okay.
Okay, everybody. So